Hey, hey, hey.
Uh, all right, everybody. Welcome back to episode 27. 27. Co-host Conservative Brother Daily back with another frustrating yet inquisitive commentary on this political landscape. Conspiracy Brother, can you hear me okay? Am I coming in? Coming in good?
Yeah, yeah, you sound good on my end. Did you hear me?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Little technical difficulty. Bear with us.
Hey,
Are
can you hear me?
you there, Conspiracy?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I seem to.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Better?
But
Worse?
groups. I'm not sure if everybody else can still hear me. Um, but yeah. Welcome back, episode 27. Obviously, we got Trump, Biden. We're gonna get to that second. Hunter Biden trial update. Obviously, he had a conviction recently in all three of the gun charges. We're gonna cook on that a bit. Then also Kyrie Irving. We definitely NBA Finals at the same time. He definitely went through his own sort of hero's arc, at least back to the finals, where everybody was counting him out, sharing the black Jews tweet, and he went through the whole anti-Semitic. Little analysis and breakdown of what apparently I keep getting this unstable internet connection. Um,
Yeah, it seems like you are,
just
you are going you
bear
are
with us
going out a little bit.
momentarily, and we're just gonna get that. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. No message. Yeah, I can't hear you for whatever reason with my internet connection. I'm
Okay.
back. I'm gonna
Well,
leave the studio and we'll try and
okay.
figure this thing out. Okay.
All right. I can hear you. So, um, but as you were saying, there are a lot of things going
Bear with
on.
us, uncomfy troops. Never know what's gonna happen. So just bear with us, and we'll be starting again momentarily.
I, for one, I'm actually doing this show on my phone because I'm in a different location than normal. So I don't know what just happened on my end because I can I have full internet connection and it just booted me. So we'll see what happens when conservative brother gets back, but I don't know why. I don't know why this is behaving this way at all. Um, I'm gonna mute myself and wait till he comes back, and then see what happens. I'll just play some background music or something in the meantime. still don't have a conservative brother back yet, so I don't know. But so one of the main topics in the news this cycle was the debate. I didn't get to watch all of it. I said I've been kind of busy the last 2 weeks, and so my whole routine is off. But I was able to watch some clips and some highlights, I guess if you could call them highlights, of the debate. And I think overall it's fairly obvious that Joe Biden is not, he's not even, as far as like ability or capability, he's not even where he was in 2020. And in 2020, he didn't even run a traditional campaign. They really had him locked in his room. They really had him locked in his room without having any normal interactions with media or constituents or prospective voters, any of that. It was really just complete. So, one of the bigger things that I think America and really anybody who got a chance to watch noticed is just his inability to string sentences together. That has been a problem increasingly recently, where he's talking and he just trails off, mumbling things that make completely no sense. So completely incoherent statements about whatever, because you don't understand what he's talking about. And Trump kind of addressed that. I saw a clip because RBN talked about it. I saw a clip where Biden was talking about immigration and said something like he wanted to cut immigration by 40%. He was saying immigration was better under his administration than it was under Trump's. And I thought that was really interesting because I remember, Trump had this basically rhetoric that, he was going to have everybody stay in Mexico. If they were trying to seek asylum, he had an agreement with Mexico, the Remain in Mexico policy. And even he initiated a travel ban. The media kind of called it the Muslim travel ban as a shorthand, Muslim travel ban as a shorthand, but it was essentially a ban on entry into the country from, I think, 7 Muslim countries. And the mainstream media, the liberal media, basically attacked him for it. You had liberal governors and mayors who were unwilling to assess or enforce the deportation policy that he tried to implement. And my position, that I'm not defending him or his policies, but I remember when all these different states and these different liberal leaders were saying that his policy was inhumane or barbaric or It went against the ideals of America as a nation, and so they wouldn't participate. Jimmy Dore frequently mentioned that Obama deported more people in 1 year as president than Trump did in his whole 4 years combined. So, when Trump was president, they did everything they could to try to inhibit his ability to implement policies that he said and he ran on to deport or I guess generally remove immigrants, illegal immigrants or whatever from the country. And now you have Joe Biden bragging that he has been more successful in implementing uh, I don't know, immigration restrictions and deportation policies. And I don't have the clip because we normally don't do clips and stuff. But I mean, we will do clips, but we don't necessarily do clips for every incident that happens in the past, week or two of in the media. But he says, Biden says some stuff about 40% and all this, and then he starts to trail off. And so they ask Trump if he has any type of rebuttal. And he says, I don't really know what he said at the end there. I don't think he knows. And what I noticed about Trump was he was much more deliberately subdued. I know they had some kind of rule about cutting off the microphone of, he's back. Let's see. Hey. So I don't know if you could hear me, but I was going over some points about the debate. Some of the times, or I guess one instance where Joe Biden was so incoherent that Trump really didn't have to try hard to present a distinction between his cognitive ability and Joe Biden's. So I'll let you get back to what you were saying before you got off.
All right, I appreciate that, conspiracy brother. I was actually listening in a bit as I'm waiting to my computer to run up. I'm on my phone listening to the YouTube live stream. So yeah, you brought up some really great points. I also wasn't able to catch the entire debate. I probably caught maybe a half to 2/3 of it. I had to head into work. But overall, I mean the word, the writing is obviously on the wall. I mean, here you have, I think this is the first time in like maybe 100 years, we're looking at evaluating the performance of two presidents. We've seen the former president, his 4 years, and now we're seeing the current president, how his 4 years are shaping up as his last months, hopefully, last months come to an end. But was just, I think the biggest thing I kind of didn't see coming was definitely, at least from what I saw, the moderators were actually a little bit more reasonable as far as, I didn't catch like the last third of it, but they weren't like cutting Trump's mic off or no, you didn't answer the right question, submit, denounce the 2020 election denier. There was I saw very little of that. I did see a more focused, streamlined sort of Trump who kind of realized he was over talking and, doing a lot of different things in the 2020 debate that kind of just made it a shit show. And yeah, my biggest thing is the fact that he pretty much did what he set out to do. I'm just shocked that the moderators were at least a little more not favorable, but at the same time, they weren't pulling every trick of the book to keep Trump from talking or saying stuff that they didn't like or just exposing some truth. Even though, Trump had some exaggerations and lies in there, obviously, but nothing like the Biden lie. And it's funny how with this reaction, it's almost as if the way they set Biden up to fail people are talking about, no, Biden's a nominee. He's sticking with us through thick and thin. I'm also conspiracy brother. I do have the screen share up, so we can kind of scroll through some of these articles as we continue our analysis. But if you want to, throw that up. But the thing is that it's weird how they are kind of doing, at least being neutral to Trump during the debate, like a normal moderator should. As if they're trying to really expose Biden for who he is. But then you see it's almost like another sort of split ticket or split decision where you got half of the leftist media who's like still defending Biden at all costs, gaslighting. Oh, he did the best he ever could. Of course you got the influencers, the DNC shills that are being paid capping for him. But it's a weird split. You kind of have this half and half of different outlets that are just pretty much calling it out. Biden's too old. Biden's not there. And then you got the other half that's still defending him. So it's very interesting on how it's kind of creating another internal civil war within the Dem leftist side, where there's half and half on it. So what I'm trying to figure out, conspiracy brother, I want to maybe pose this question to you, is that are they trying to, did the left and the media actually set up Biden to fail for us to see, for even people at home to finally see what we've been talking about? And if so, is that because they are once again preparing to maybe line somebody up who could swoop in by the convention, at the convention? Something might happen. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on that, on a bigger picture scale,
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. About them replacing him with Gavin Newsom, or people have said Michelle Obama. The more popular name now is Hillary Clinton, because they think it will be easier. It will be easier for them to replace Joe with a woman, since the vice president is a woman of color, quote unquote, and whatever that
Oh,
means.
that'll help. Oh man, I'm so excited now. That's right.
So, there's even what I've heard now. What they may do is they may replace Biden with Gavin Newsom and allow allow Kamala to either be the governor in his place or run for governor, so that she's still given a position of authority and she's not just being jumped over by Newsom. So I think there's a bit of that. There's a bit of the media trying to put him on full display so that everybody can see who he is for themselves. And then I think a part of it is just, they really, like Trump talked about, the reason he was so alert when we debated in the past, or when he debated Bernie in the past, is because they gave him so many drugs. And
Right.
so if you debated Biden, he wanted a drug test or whatever. And so, things like that, where he made these kind of requests and said these kinds of things publicly, I think that put the Biden campaign uh, in a tight spot, because we've all seen him for the past almost 4 years, and he's not there mentally. And so it lends itself more easily to the idea that he is being drugged up in some capacity. And so, I think it's one of those things too, where maybe they are trying to, I don't think they're trying to be fair, but maybe they are trying to present themselves as fair, and it backfired because Biden is so mentally and physically incapable that any attention is a magnifying glass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also want to mention too, what's really funny is that there's going to be a bit of I feel like there's going to be, the media is going to try and play it. They've been playing it, obviously. No, Biden's just fine. It's a smaller minority of the left media. Like, no, Biden's just fine. Oh, what are you guys talking about? obviously the bigger majority of even the left media is like, this isn't it. Biden did terrible. But I feel like there's going to be some other people in there that are going to say, yeah, you see, they're both bad. They're both too old. So they're trying to like still acknowledge Biden, but then somehow clump Trump in. They're like, yeah, Trump's bad. Trump's too old too. And what's crazy is that we would never in a million years think we'd see the New York Times of all places saying to serve his country, Biden should leave the race. Like, this is New York Times. And then we're starting to get the script. So whoever's handing down this script to the media, now the Inquirer, to serve his country. Oh, okay, saying Donald Trump should leave the race. Wow. So they just went total gaslight over here. Look, Biden had a horrible night Thursday, but the debate about the debate is misplaced. So they find all types of ways to spin it. I think once again, like, we can kind of get into the nitty gritty on different topics you touched on. I would have liked if they touched a little bit more on Jace, on kind of, they kind of beat him up about him having the felonies, and they didn't touch too much on J6, a little bit. But I kind of wish the zinger that Trump could have mentioned or said was that, hey, there's two people up here. There's a president who's coming after the weaponizing DOJ to come after his political opponent, all right, with 34 counts. And also that current president is also trying to remove his political opponent off the ballot. So for anybody to talk about a threat to democracy, that would be Biden. You know, so I don't remember every single topic they went over. Obviously, there's a lot of different breakdowns that people can kind of go to for that. We're just overall looking at the bigger picture here. And once again, I think if I'm not mistaken, there's not another debate until September. So there's like a whole nother 3 months, right? I don't think there's a second debate coming up soon, is it? Or is it in July?
No, it's in September is the next debate.
Yeah, that's so weird anyway. So it's like, all I could think about is that they have to, the elites, they have to use this as some sort of launching pad to start shuffling him out the way. So by the time the DNC comes around in August, they either line somebody up, made him Biden has a health issue. There's some sort of, I decided to call it quits. So I feel like there's why else would they do this debate this early just to set them up to fail? You know, so they're going to do something. I feel a lot of people say, no. Well, I think it might happen. And it ain't going to happen like Biden's not going to drop out tomorrow like Bill O'Reilly's spewing stuff about. It's pretty ridiculous. But I think between now and the DNC, there's going to be a shakeup. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. You know, I mean, we could mull on this for hours, but that's all I pretty much got on this Biden-Trump debate as of now. Anything else you want to add, Conspiracy Brother?
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, as far as you were saying, are they trying to be more fair or whatever? I don't really think they are. You know, I think they wanted to project the image of fairness, but when you look at the debate process, they had it on CNN, which is a paid for cable network, right? So you have the whole debate controlled by a known biased liberal news network, and so people didn't ask hard questions. What they had done seemed to me was try to ask both candidates softball questions so that they wouldn't appear biased toward Biden. And so, like I said, again, it kind of backfired because Biden is like a walking corpse, as I've said many times before. And no matter what you think about Trump personally, mentally, he's as sharp as, maybe ever. So he doesn't really need much assistance to appear like the better option. The other thing I wanted to talk about is just you said, what did you say? You said something about um, the media trying to shift the focus, not from capability or anything like that, but to the idea that they're both old. And that was something that I noticed maybe 6 months ago, that they're trying to shift the discussion or the argument between the two candidates from one of policy and ability to govern and things like that to, well, Trump is old too, and so is Biden. And so if they do switch out Biden for someone else, they want to create the idea or the perception that whoever that newer person is, so long as they're younger or sufficiently young relative to Biden and Trump, they are the better option. And it's an obvious manipulation. As far as I see it, it's an obvious manipulation of the situation because um, for the last 6 years or so, they have said age is not an issue. Biden is not too old, and you're ageist if you say that or behave that way or tell other people that Biden is too old. They've gone from that to now. It's a foregone conclusion that Biden is too old, but also Trump is too old. And I mean, in truth, age isn't really the concern. Like I posted in our group, Ernie Hudson of Ghostbusters fame is a year older than Donald Trump and like 3 years younger than Joe Biden, or 2 years older than Trump and 2 years younger than Joe Biden. And if you watched any interviews of him recently, if you saw any of his media interactions, you would, if a guy if he was running for office, despite his age, you would still consider him mentally and physically capable of doing the job. And so it really is just like a red herring for them to say, hey, Biden's too old and so is Trump. Because if Biden, projected any stability, any ability mentally or physically to do the job, no one would be questioning his age as a condition of his worthiness or his ability. But, because I don't know if he's had some kind of stroke or some kind of brain injury or, from all the weird stuff that he has done and is doing all over the years, there's no way to know how that affects the brain,
No, that's a great point you bring there, because it's like, once again, age was never a topic of concern or discussion brought up until we started seeing the cognitive issues. Okay? And as soon as we point out the cognitive, then they're spinning, oh no, well, it's just his age shouldn't be about his age. Well, no. We're pointing out the mental cognitive of it. And another biggest concern about me, which is kind of like an open secret, I mean, the media won't talk about it, is the fact that they try to give Trump they gave him a bunch of hoopla about, he said, hey, Joe Biden should submit to a drug test before the debate. And then you got all the media outlets coming out like, oh, what do you think? Oh, Joe's rolling up a doobie in the Oval Office. Oh, is Joe like sniffing coke in the in the Pentagon? Like you see how they spin it. And Trump isn't saying, oh, Joe's doing a line of coke, even though Hunter could probably, Hunter's probably even clean now. I'll even give him that. Hunter's probably 100% clean. What Trump is referring to is the amount of, like, I don't know if it's like, I forgot what all the drugs are called, but it's the stuff that kind of just, for old people to give them that kick to kind of prop them up, because this should be a concern. And a lot of people should know that when Biden is up there doing speeches, doing all this types of stuff, there's all types of I forgot the terms for them, like the I forgot the terms for these different drugs that are able to like performance enhancing, but not like steroids, but they help get him
Well,
away.
I've heard people
Yeah,
say like Adderall and then some other
right.
stuff, not by name that I would be able to remember, but some stronger things that might be injectable to help him focus better.
Yeah, the term.
So yeah,
Yeah. The term or definition is escaping me. We'll just say performance enhancement. Even though that might not be technically the right term for the drug, the drug grade that he's using. But that is what he was referring to. And they're trying to spin it like Trump's accusing him of sniffing coke or marijuana. So that's the spin right there. So any lucid person should realize, if the debate didn't make you realize it, that Biden is not in his own cognitive mind. He needs not only his wife to parade him around like his nurse, but and I remember Chris Rock made that joke years ago when McCain was running against Obama. Like, hey, you notice McCain hired his nurse to be his vice president, Sarah Palin. And guess what? To maybe an extent, John McCain was pretty old then, but now we're seeing 12 years later the flip script. The script is flipped, and you get Democrats, hovering around Joe Biden, and you realize they're playing the same game. How could you have any confidence or ability in the leader of the free world to face our enemies, to do all these different things that affects the livelihood of so many? And this guy can't even stay awake during a UN meeting. He's slurring his words on a debate stage, and he has to have a cocktail of all types of performance enhancing drugs just to get through a debate or a speech. What is he looking like behind the scenes when we don't see him? Who's wheeling him into the room and then having him sign God knows what he's signing? We're just seeing it with when the kitchen lights are on. You know, we don't know what the roaches are doing when the lights are off and Biden's behind the scenes. So if anything, people want to just, once again, it's 1984, it's George Orwell. Don't believe your eyes, don't believe your ears. And that fact alone, that this guy is clearly has to be hopped up on all types of drug cocktails just to be functioning, it is just a concern among many, obviously, with Biden's corruption and all the types of things, that we can touch on. So I just want to kind of let that breathe there. But Conspiracy Brother, anything you want to add before we hit up the next topic?
no, I think you really kind of hit everything that I was thinking. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say this: they do need to obfuscate because the average person, when they think about drugs and drug testing, they're not thinking about things for focus and for mental acuity. They're thinking about you know cocaine,
Mm-hmm.
marijuana, things like that, and especially with the news surrounding Hunter, it makes it seem like, well, why would the president have these kinds of drugs? What are you accusing him of? Instead of, an open acknowledgement of what is really being argued or said or whatever.
There's a vast network of these white collar performance enhancing drugs. I mean, Elon Musk, Twitter's own Elon Musk, obviously got exposed with that, and all types of levels from government, from government officials, staffers on in both campaigns, Democrats and Republicans alike, do all types of drugs, performance enhancing issues. Obviously, coke was found in the White House under the Biden administration. But you know what? I'm sure every administration they got some tweakers at all the levels. So yeah, you brought up the great point with that. We'll kind of leave it there. But yeah, the debate once again, guys. Uh, Crazy how we're not going to see another one until September. But obviously, you can go to different places to get full breakdowns of what Trump said, what he talked about. Obviously, he was pretty spot on. Even there was some exaggeration in there, things he got wrong, obviously compared to Biden. But you got to do your own research, obviously, on really the things Joe Biden said, fact checked against the things Trump said. So moving forward, we got Once again, I'm trying to get better at this plugging. I wanted to let you guys know, little shameless plug. Once again, you are watching Uncomfy Truths, so we're gonna try and get better at plugging our channels. Obviously, we don't have the biggest following yet, but we are on Odyssey. We are on the YouTube, and guess what, y'all? We're also on my personal favorite. See here, Rumble, which I can't pull up at the moment. Hold on, actually, I can pull it up. But make sure you guys subscribe, comment, like. You know, this is what we do. So, we got this one going. So, if you guys make sure to comment, like, subscribe. And this is what we're here for. This is our other recent episode. And this is our YouTube / Rumble. It's our Rumble. And then obviously we got the live event going on here. And like I mentioned, our YouTube. And then finally our Odyssey. So we're newer to Odyssey, building up a following on there. All right. So commercial over. Next conspiracy, brother, we got Fauci's new oversight committee. Once again, let me just put in House Oversight Committee hearing. So those of you guys that don't know, I think about 3-4 weeks ago, Fauci went back in front of Congress. Unfortunately for him, he got like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She sleazed her way in there, and she was bringing the heat. Basically, I think the Hill still is leaning left more and more. I actually used to at least have some neutral respect for the Hill. They recently fired Breonna Joy Gray for some of her pushback and sort of, as far as the journalism reporting on the Gaza genocide. The Hill is kind of like not really, it's pretty much losing favor with me, but just for the sake of time, we can kind of go over these 5 takeaways from the House hearing just to sort of refresh our memory. So Conspiracy Brother, if you want, I can read this article or you can. If they don't paywall block us.
Yeah, it'll probably be easier for you to read the stuff just because I'm on my phone and I can't get the pictures to blow up like I need them to read it. So it'll probably be easier for you to read it.
Okay, all good. All right, I got you, brother. Okay, so during his first congressional hearing in 2 years, former White House medical advisor, this comes once again, Joseph Choi at the Hill. During the first congressional hearing in nearly 2 years, former chief White House medical advisor Anthony Fauci picked up where he left off, trading bars with Republicans over the government handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Fauci's public testimony before the House and Oversight Accountability and Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic was long anticipated and preceded by 2 days of closed door interviews in January. The most recent hearings that focused on Fauci's most recent hearings that focused on Fauci's former subordinates have raised new questions about whether he was aware of and complicit in the misconduct with the National Institute of Allergy Infectious Diseases, NIAID, the agency he headed for decades before retiring at the end of 2022. The longtime government scientist made no effort to hide his dismay when grilled on various conspiracy theories. So once again, the Hills, you can kind of already see where they're kind of leaning when it comes to just naming what they talk about as conspiracy theories or unfounded claims about his actions regarding the COVID-19. And the hearing was marked by some chaotic moments involving both the House members and Fauci critics in audience. Here are some of the takeaways from the hearing. Condemns actions of former advisor. Fauci faced multiple questions about former NIAID senior advisor David Morens, who worked with Fauci for several decades. Congressional investigators found that Morens appeared to have attempted to avoid Freedom of Information Act requests by using his personal email account to communicate with outside entities such as EcoHealth. President Peter Daszak. I can either send stuff to Tony on his private Gmail or hand it to him at work or at his house. He is too smart to let colleagues send him stuff that could cause trouble, Morris once wrote to Daszak. Morris also claimed, Daszak, that Fauci was seeking to protect EcoHealth from losing a grant. Fauci on Monday empathetically denied the claims and implications in the emails. He even stated he was unsure if Morris reported directly to him as Morris had claimed. So once again, they're already kind of, at least Fauci's using that sort of, I was unsure or I don't recall, so, obviously that's a red flag. With respect to his recent testimony before the subcommittee, I knew nothing of Dr. Morin's actions regarding Dr. Daszak, EcoHealth, or his emails. It is important to point out the record that despite his title, and even though he was helpful to me in writing specific scientific papers, Dr. Morris was not an advisor to me on NIAID policy or other substantive issues, Fauci said in his opening remarks. He further refuted claims from Morris that he had contacted any official business on his personal email, though he acknowledged it was conceivable that he communicated with Morris on a private email for the purpose of writing medical scientific chapters together. Distancing himself from COVID guidance, lab leak debate. Along with distancing himself from Morris, Fauci also played down his personal influence on the pandemic guidance that came out early in the outbreak. One particular issue that was frequently visited during the hearing was the guidance to stay 6 feet apart to reduce the transmission of the virus. During the closed-door interview, Fauci said the 6 feet of guidance sort of just appeared, a remark that drew ire of GOP members. It actually came from the Center of Disease Control. The CDC was responsible for those guidelines, for those kind of guidelines for schools, not me. Fauci said, it had little to do with me since I didn't make the recommendation. And my saying there was no science behind it means there was no clinical trial that proved that. That's just one of the things that it got a little distorted. So he's basically admitting to it. He also refuted accusations that he sought to cover or downplay a potential lab leak theory on the origins of the pandemic. 2 participants have testified before the subcommittee that I did not try to steer the discussion in any direction, Fauci said. Such a sleazeball. He called claim. Obviously, you guys know my bias, and I'm proud of it. He called claims that he sought to influence or bribe scientists investigating COVID simply preposterous, adding he gave no input on a published paper exploring the potential origins of COVID that leaned toward natural origins theory. He read off old emails in which he discussed with his colleagues the need for further investigation. It is inconceivable that anyone who reads this email could conclude that I was trying to cover up the possibility of a lab leak. I have always kept an open mind to the different possibilities. However, Fauci did say he continued to believe natural origin was a more likely theory. Notorious MTG. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, questioning of Fauci marked the most contentious moment of the hearing. Democrats were quick to call for a point of order, and she pointedly refused to recognize Fauci as a doctor. I respect that. Mr. Fauci, because you're not a doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes, Greene said, refusing to allow Fauci to respond. This quip led Rep. Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, to call for a point of order. Greene, in turn, called Raskin Mr. Raskin. Just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor because we don't want him to be a doctor? Raskin asked subcommittee chair Brad Winstrom, Republican of Ohio. Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked. He belongs in jail, Greene responded. Winstrom, who himself is a physician, repeatedly and loudly ordered Greene to suspend her line of questioning, and stated she should recognize the doctor as a doctor. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become? Is this what we have devolved into? Rep. Quincy Mafune, Democrat, Maryland, is asked. So they got the nerve, After reclaiming, what happened to free speech? Where's the free speech police at? Where are these free speech liberals at? You know. Anyway, after reclaiming her time, Green held up a photo of Fauci at a Washington Nationals baseball game in 2020, not wearing a mask. She blasted Fauci for apparent hypocrisy as children in schools and that the public at large were advised to wear masks. We should be recommending you to be prosecuted, Green said, accusing Fauci of crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci, she added. Anti-Fauci contingent turns out. Green's contentious questioning of Fauci was met with applause by some in the audience who appeared to have come to the hearing to speak out against Fauci. Several members of the public who were in the audience were seen wearing T-shirts that read "Got ivermectin," in apparent reference to the anti-parasitic drug that former president touted as a effective COVID-19 treatment. The FDA was continuously stated that no evidence has been uncovered to suggest ivermectin is effective at treating SARS-CoV-2. All right, so we can see the Hill obviously is still kind of parroting these 2020, 2021 talking points. A lot of this stuff with ivermectin has been debunked. It is a proven early treatment. But apparently the FDA is like the overlord of all this info. And there's been various studies and scientists, doctors that came out. So we know where the Hill stands, obviously. No wonder they fired Breonna Joy Gray. Some heckling was heard from the public attendees throughout the hearing. So you guys see they're kind of trying to just demonize any sort of, pushback or people in the audience. They're trying to like just sort of demonize them. Some heckling was heard from the public attendees throughout the hearing. One person loudly said, "Calm down," at one point after Fauci answered a question. Two hecklers were removed from the room by U.S. Capitol Police officers. The first instance occurred when a young woman who appeared to claim she was a doctor attempted to interrupt Fauci. Winstrup had her escorted out before she could finish what she was saying. So once again, real journalism and Conspiracy Brother, he keep interjecting in, and you can interject whenever, but real journalism would say, okay, a young woman named Dr. Jill Stone from blah, 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 who claimed to be a doctor, or at least having her full name and where she claimed she worked. But the whole sort of downplaying, like you didn't follow up with that person and see if they were a real doctor, but you're just kind of going off of just face value, what they said. Young woman who cleared to be a doctor. I don't know if that was the case. Maybe she wasn't a doctor, but y'all didn't even like follow up on that. Rep. Robert Garcia, Democrat from California, said you can take your Starbucks with you to the woman as she was being let out. So how is that relevant? Like, how is this journalism like as far as you didn't even look into who the woman really was, but you can't wait to put in the little Democrat, little witty slight, witty comments, Later on in the hearing, a man was removed from the office after standing up saying, "Fauci, you belong in jail." So, once again, I get it, decorum, order in the court, but where are these free speech liberals at right now? The pro-Palestine protesters have gotten away with a lot more. This remark seems to catch Fauci's attention, with him stopping to say, "What is that? We need to listen to that?" After the hearing, several of the public attendees who appeared to be against Fauci gathered behind him, though he did not acknowledge them before quickly exiting the hearing room through the back. Democrats say they learned nothing new. It's very end. All right. Immediately following the hearing, Democrats on the committee told reporters that they didn't believe anything new had been learned from Fauci's testimony. Nope, not a single thing. Just that they wanted to continue to promote their false allegations, continue to confuse the American people, and Dr. Fauci's word, even though he explained under the context and under the oath of what he said by everything that he said, ranking member Raul Ruiz, Democrat from California, said. So obviously these Democrats still dick ride Fauci. They're on the take. They're getting payments, or they're getting stuff on the back end. They're getting taken care of. Continue to harbor Dr. Death. He absolutely answered under oath in a way that refuted all the false claims, accusations, which isn't true. I did see Marjorie's part where he just wouldn't even respond to when she talked about him calling out. She called out him on the emails and not wearing the mask. But anyway, Ruiz added, now whether or not that is clear for them and whether or not they will drop their senseless and baseless accusations, I don't know. And all these Democrats are just lockstep. None of them have any sort of dissident opinion. They're all lockstep on the agenda. Rep. Debbie Dingell, Democrat from Michigan, accused Republicans on the committee of carrying out a lot of witch hunts. Oh, like you guys don't witch hunt Trump during the hearing, adding that she believed his testimony aligned with the testimony he gave earlier this year. The effort to smear and vilify Dr. Fauci parallels their effort to smear and impeach Joe Biden. Both of them were complete failures because there's no evidence behind any of it. But it does reflect their new style of political character assassination, Raskin said. All right, so Conspiracy Brother, you have the floor. This is probably my last time ever reading The Hill. I don't know if I'm subscribed to their YouTube channel, but I'm going to unsubscribe. But yeah, this is my last Hill article I'm going to read. But, Conspiracy Brother, the floor is yours. What are your thoughts on this Fauci House hearing? I'm just in awe. Conspiracy Brother? All right. I think he's still muted. See what's going on. But yeah, I'll just kind of give my thoughts until Conspiracy Brother comes back. But what's funny, you can go to C-SPAN, the C-SPAN live stream. I caught some of that, or I caught some of that, and I was watching part of Marjorie Taylor Greene. While I'm not a huge fan of Marjorie, I think Conspiracy Brother mentioned this, how you do respect what she stands for, and a lot of things she's been kind of spot on and right about. And the fact that she pulled up the emails that Fauci tried to claim he had no idea whether it was, he was denying everything about it being a lab leak. He was denying about having any sort of cover up. She pulled up the email receipts. She pulled up him wearing the mask while everyone else had the mask up. She pulled up a lot of the inconsistencies of him saying the 6-foot rule, the masking rule. Oh, I kind of made it up. And, but when back then it was him leading the charge to enforce it. So it's just very interesting how many people can just and even the C-SPAN, there were a whole lot of these NPCs in the C-SPAN comments just blindly defending the establishment, defending Fauci. It's just very sad. You had a few people in the comments kind of calling out, like, look at all these NPC normies. But it's just amazing to me how people have this blind authority to government. People with a lab coat and this Dingell woman, just framing these softball questions, like kind of just dick riding him when he's asking the questions. When she's like kind of setting him up like he's like this, great figure when he's asking the questions. So very softball, complimenting questions, and the receipts are there. We've known everything. God, just go to the real Anthony Fauci. Not only is there a book you can read from RFK, when once again he cites his sources. You want to call him a crazy conspiracy theorist, but guess what? He has all the receipts. If you get past the normie, stranger danger, fear mongering that keeps you from even listening to a person for yourself, then you understand. So there's the real Anthony Fauci book. There's the real Anthony Fauci full-length documentary they created. It's on Rumble right now. So if you're so normie you can't even go to Rumble because somebody told you it was a far right-wing website, I don't know how to tell you of just how NPC and subservient you are to authority. But we've been talking about this in the past episodes. It really takes people to get out of this hand holding where everybody has to hold your hand and force links and data down your throat. We can provide the data, the receipts, You can go ahead and do the research. And guess what? Research doesn't stop at the first top 10 Google results, where you read the fact check headline article, and then at the very bottom they mention, yeah, this is actually true, but we're saying it's fake because we know we're not going to read all the way to the bottom of this fact check article. So there's just a lot of things with the Fauci. Once again, this guy was bad news since the 70s, 80s. He basically, just some history, he was a big proponent behind the AIDS HIV epidemic. He basically had this drug called remdesivir. No, I think back then it was called AZT or something like that. And they withdrew, just like with COVID 20, 30 years later, they withdrew or censored and suppressed a lot of these natural early treatments of HIV. And Fauci, who had patents, he had alliances between the CDC, between the FDA, between all these vaccine makers. He was able to get his payback, his incentives, and his patents on the AZT drug, which was pushed to various LGBTQ. Well, at least back then it was just gay or lesbian and whatnot. But the gay community, they should be outraged more than anybody. And basically, this AZT drug killed and hurt and did more harm than good. A lot of the gay community ended up dying of AIDS or dying of HIV or getting full-blown AIDS. And there's even a guy named, I think it was a gay activist named Arthur Ashe. And you can still go and look up Arthur Ashe open letter to Fauci. This guy in the late 90s, I think he died in the late 80s or early 90s, but he was a big sort of gay rights activist or whatnot. And he literally wrote a whole letter to Dr. Fauci condemning him for what he did was crimes against humanity, for providing this deadly drug that did more harm than good, that led to a lot of the people affected with HIV from dying where they wouldn't have. And once again, Fauci also did a lot of different studies. Margie pulled up these pictures of dogs, kind of their heads stuck in a tent, and it's gain of function stuff. So the gain of function stuff that's been going on for years. Even Obama told him he couldn't do that during his administration, kicked him out. He basically connected with a few different, created some shell companies, and through basically nonprofits and grants, he was able to continue that research overseas, even though they told him he couldn't do it on the East Coast, wherever his place was at, Virginia and whatnot. He ended up continuing that gain of function work overseas. There's numerous studies that he did, including one that killed a dozen of these New York black and brown kids. That was a 2005 trial, and the list goes on and on. So once again, if you have a free-thinking bone in your body, if you're not just a subservient normie who just listens to the news and is convinced that every other person who speaks out against establishment is some stranger danger person you can't listen to, then have a fun life. But if you at least have a sense of at least one sense, like a cell in your body, to have some common sense, if you will, you would go to Rumble, go look up The Real Anthony Fauci documentary that, once again, it lays out the receipts. At least go there and debunk what we're saying. Go there and be like, hey, you know what, conservative brother, I watched that documentary. This was BS because of that. At this 20-minute mark, this ended up being wrong because of this. That's been debunked. But you never get that. You get people who want to sit on the other side of the room and point stranger danger at whatever it is on the other side who wants to debate. They can't even debate. So conspiracy brother, I don't know if you can still hop back on. I see you're here, but you're still
I'm here. The situation I think it is, it's a lot like the debate, right? The liberal elites, I don't know if you call them liberal elites or if you want to just call them Democratic Party operatives or would-be or wannabe operatives have created this situation where if you hold certain positions, you are, considered like a throwaway person or a garbage person. Your ideas are bad, even if it's just asking questions about things that are obviously noticeable to everyone. And so, in this situation, they went out of their way, seemingly, to Fauci up or promote him as some type of hero, as some tireless and long-suffering um, government employee who only wants what's best for everyone and whatever. And as we have gotten information about him, and the way the virus may have been introduced, uh, you know, it it contradicts with the image they have tried to promote of Fauci, and it also makes it difficult for anybody to try to do anything or say anything that would look like holding him accountable. So um, because you've already propped him up and deified him. I remember watching like press conferences of Gretchen Whitmer. She would be interviewed, on the Today Show or whatever, because they were considering her for a VP pick for Biden. They were saying she was a potential pick, and she had Fauci. Either she had a little Fauci toy, like a doll, or she had she had something like a needle point that looked like Fauci or something with the mask on. And so, all over the liberal elites and all throughout liberal media, when they were doing those Zoom interviews and all of those virtual interviews with candidates and different people in the political sphere, they all made sure to show off their Fauci materials or merchandise, and Jimmy Dore talks about this a lot, but he says, in the Dallas Buyers Club movie, when they wrote the movie originally, Fauci was the villain, and the studio, I believe the studio or the producer for the film, had the screenwriter change that aspect of it. But, when you talk to a lot of older gay men about the 80s and the way Fauci and the CDC handled the AIDS crisis, I know you talked about it a little bit, um, but they hated Fauci, right? Like you said it with that, what is it? You call it? It's called AZT or whatever.
I think that was it.
And basically, the drug was killing people. Like there was um, a through line or a massive correlation that seemed to indicate a causation between using that AZT and like a person dying within a matter of weeks. Within no more than 2 weeks, you saw the way people were destroyed, and there were safer, cheaper, more effective alternatives available for people to use, and Fauci wouldn't have it. I mean, that was what the Dallas Buyers Club was about. Uh, you know, the guy, I forget his name, in Texas, having to go to Canada or having to go to Mexico and really
Matthew
discussing how
McConaughey.
other.
I think that's
Yeah,
I think
Matthew McConaughey,
Matthew.
but
Yeah.
I forget the name of the actual person. But yeah, I mean, he had to go to Mexico to find treatment, and people who lived north would go to Canada to find treatment that was was helpful and was available to them because he wouldn't allow these American citizens to go and get these drugs from doctors here in America, right? So he's got a long history of uh, doing, I guess in this way it's funny, but it's not funny, but it fits, doing something strange for a piece of change, right? And the strange thing is killing people, right? Killing American citizens, or in this instance, the global community, because of the recklessness of his actions and behaviors.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that, and I think Andy Frisella over at the Real AF podcast. Those who don't know Andy Frisella, he's like a St. Louis businessman. He kind of started, working, grew up poor, kind of built a business of vitamin supplements. He started a business podcast. 5 years, one of the top downloaded podcasts. And then in 2019, he kind of just saw the wave of just a lot of things going on, the wokeness and whatnot. So leans a little bit conservative, but at the same time, like he does call out a lot of the craziness on the right and the left. And he talked about like looking from a bigger picture scale about how everything going on, whether it's the Trump Biden debate, you're seeing, okay, Biden looks like a corpse. He can't function right in front of my eyes. And then they're saying, hey, the media is saying, hey, don't look at the man behind the curtain. And now you're seeing the same thing with, these sort of House committees are pretty much political theater as well. I mean, Marge is trying her best to get her message out, but at the same time, they're all going to play their role. And the thing Andy Frisella talked about at the show, Real AF, is that we should be more concerned on the fact that they just lie to the camera. They know they're lying. We know that they know they're lying. And guess what? They know that we know that they're lying. And the weird thing is when you see that with the Trump Biden debate, people on MSNBC saying Biden's better than ever, whether it's the House representatives that are just giving Fauci these softball questions and singing his praises, to kind of try and counter Marjorie's interrogation. It's for the history books, in the tale as old as time. The victors write the history books, if you will. How much about World War II do we not know about? Did you guys know that there was a ethnic cleansing of over 12 million Germans following World War II, but no one ever mentions that? Does anybody know that Christians are still the most persecuted, killed group of religious people? There's multiple genocides going on right now of not only Ukrainian Christians, but there's also the number one genocide right now of Christians is right now going on in Armenia. Armenia, that's like the oldest Christian land. And once again, I'm not just saying just Christians, but how come none of that's being talked about? The atrocities going on then and atrocities going on now. That's because they want to put this whole show up on TV where, it doesn't matter if half the country's pissed off or doing all the pushback because they got the video footage. They got the C-SPAN live stream. They have the State of the Union where, yes, they're lying to our faces, but guess what? Their plan is it doesn't matter. You're not going to be around in 3 or 5 years. Hey, you might leave the country. You might be in one of our re-education camps. You know what? We might kill you if you don't take the next bird flu vaccine and you don't denounce yourself. We're going to call you a MAGA person and put you in jail. So I think the biggest thing that should alarm people, if you haven't woken up yet, is why are they lying through their teeth on camera, whether it's Biden's functioning, whether it's like how they mishandled COVID. Fauci can get up there and lie and just be smug because they're doing that for the history books, for the video. They're not doing that because the people that are alive right now and know what's going on, guess what? We may not be here in 10, 20 years, whether we get sick and die, whether we get taken care of. what they're doing now, conspiracy brother, on video, gaslighting on camera, on live TV. This is for the video history books of our kids, our grandkids, and our great grandkids who aren't gonna live through this stuff. They won't know what happened. All they'll have is the footage and the history books, which is gonna show Fauci on camera saying, "No, I didn't had no idea," or it's gonna have Biden saying we have the greatest economy ever. So I wanted to kind of just bring that point home. What Andy Frisella talked about is that this is part of a bigger picture, and what should be concerned about is why they're lying to your face right now without a care in the world, because they don't plan for us to be here much longer, whether it's 5, 10, or 20 years. They're setting up this fantasy, this fantasy world, their history. They're rewriting the history as they see it for the kids, grandkids, and great grands who aren't going to know what happened. And they're going to rewrite it in their favor. So I wanted to kind of just put that point out there.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's a good thing to keep in mind. I mean, the way that the portrayal of these things in the media is really why we have so many problems, because you can't just accept or expect the media to take things at not face value, but to be fair and non-biased in the way that they cover things, because they're sponsored. I mean, how many times did you see Pfizer commercials throughout the pandemic on CNN or MSNBC if you watch? You know what I'm saying? And it isn't to say that these things weren't happening before that, but they allowed those companies to escape scrutiny, because I know a lot of major media outlets have restrictions on criticizing sponsors. And so a lot of these companies would uh, obtain sponsorship agreements in order to avoid having to pay anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, it reminds me, it's a book written by Voltaire called Candide. And he was like a nobleman who, it was almost like a series of unfortunate events.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on an adventure. I read it so long ago that I'm drawing a blank on every detail about it. One of the main characters was not doctor, but he was Pangloss. He was a tutor or something, and they were looking for a woman. Her name was like Miss Big Bottom or something. But one of the things Pangloss would say, in certain circumstances, if something good happened, he would say we live in the best of all worlds. And if something bad would happen, he would say we live in the worst of all worlds. And so you can kind of, I was thinking, in a funny kind of way, that, we're living truly in the worst of all worlds, because, the level of corruption, the level of consideration that we get from our, elected leaders uh, is ridiculous. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Oh, great words, man. Great way to tie it all up. So yeah, this we kind of just said all we need to say on Fauci. There's a special place in hell for him, and I'm just kind of leave it there. So once again, guys, you're listening to Watching Uncomfy Truths. Feel free. We have a Give Send Go on the Conservative Brother Daily. We are on Rumble. Obviously, we got the live stream going right now, episode 27. We are on Rumble, as well as Odyssey. I don't know, they got a thumbnail issue with that. And then YouTube channel, the great censor overlords. We still got to go where the audience is at. So once again, we're building slowly but surely. So all right, next topic we got a talk about this. It's on the thumbnail, so we definitely got to get to it before the end of the show. Is everybody's favorite crack cocaine, influence peddling son. Everybody loves Hunter Biden. So we touched on him before. Obviously, the big verdict came in a few weeks ago, guilty on all 3 counts. I don't think this is a specific article we really need to read because I know everybody's kind of inundated with this news. I'll give my quick thoughts. Basically, at the end of the day, I think the elites and Democrats and Republican Uniparty saw the writing on the wall, like, oh, okay, we gotta let them know that, hey, nobody's above the law. We went after the president's son, but they go after him with these, he bought a gun. It was a felony. You shouldn't have done it. But at the end of the day, they're trying to mask these kind of bogus charges, if you will. And it wasn't like Hunter was about to go out and commit a mass shooting. But they use this as the distraction, the carrot, to say, hey, look, we're going after him. And don't look at this influence peddling over here. Don't look at us putting him on the board of this Ukrainian company, I think Burisma. He had no energy experience. The guy just gets nepotism plucked over there. Him talking with the Chinese national, hey, I'm here with my father. We're waiting for the call. They don't want that smoke. They don't want to go after that because guess what? That's going to loop and grab the tentacles back and lead back to Joe. So you know what? Let's give them something. So Republicans are saying like, hey, how are you treating this guy over here? Unequal justice of the law. Well, guess what? We got Hunter for this gun that he bought, and is a felony. When he was a felon, I think at the time. So yeah, conspiracy brother, feel free to give me your thoughts. Once again, I think it's just a cover for them not trying to like really dig into Hunter's sort of placement, doing influence peddling behalf of his father. It's all a wash.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, a guy, I think it was Harry Truman, said something like, anybody who gets rich after they hold political office is a crook or something like that. I mean, it's definitely Biden, right?
Yeah.
He has been in the government at the national level for 50 years or so, like 55 years. And so he's managed money and he's managed to build a little wealth for himself. And he hasn't written any books, not that I know of at least. Not about any of the previous presidential campaigns he ran that were eventually unsuccessful due to his inability to tell the truth. And so, I mean, this is what he taught his son, right? I mean, think about the pictures that Hunter was painting and how they were going for either $250,000 or $500,000 a piece. And this is a man, like the expression says, I don't know art, but I know what I like. He has no formal art training, and it is less likely for me to believe that anybody would be interested in purchasing paintings from this guy for such large amounts of money for anything other than money laundering or what do you call it, influence peddling, right? That's the only intention. He's not that good of a painter, and it makes no sense. But if his last name wasn't Biden, if he was Hunter Biden, if he was Hunter Johnson or Smith or Jones, uh, he would be in jail.
Or
one
Hunter
of the
Trump.
various right.
Hunter Trump, be better to jail.
Right. For any of the various crimes and actions that he's undertaken. And you see that he isn't. So,
All right. Yeah. So once again, more to come with this. It will just be very interesting just to see whether or not a question I'm going to pose. You don't have to like answer it now, conspiracy brother. Anybody could maybe answer in the comments. Like, I wonder if just Trump does get reelected, are they going to pursue the real legitimate charges of Hunter Biden influence peddling, Biden family taking money from Ukraine, China? It's just so much underneath the surface there. Another guy I want to shout out is Mike McCormick. He was a former, I think, Obama staff writer, or he was either Obama staffer or staff writer. But Mike McCormick has a great Substack. Just Google Mike McCormick Substack. He does a lot of great deep dives on the Biden family, kind of back when Biden was president. Biden was VP. He was following him around on a plane. There's history going. There's reports and just historical evidence that Biden was traveling to Ukraine back as early as 2014. Being part of that whole coup. Taking out the democratically elected president, putting in another guy, and then it was eventually Zelensky in 19. So there's just so much under the surface there. So I'd say I even read some of the Substack articles, maybe the first few paragraphs, and it goes deep. Like, you got to be really in it. He ties a lot of the Biden crime family's work with the cartel, a lot of stuff they've done in the cartel, allowing fentanyl to come over and kind of being that conduit for China to push the fentanyl, for cartel working with China to push the fentanyl. So he goes really deep on that. It's not like, conspiracy theory. It's like literally he has the receipts. He was an Obama staffer. He's not some guy that's just pissed off, because maybe the Dems fired him. But, that's definitely a guy, Mike McCormick Substack, to go deep on that. So, yeah, at the end of the day, they want to play the whole, we're no one's above the law. We got Hunter on a gun charge. Like, no, we need Clintons. We need both the Clintons. We need Obama. We need Jimmy Carter. Hell, just Jimmy Carter, George W. Bush, all of them. Then nobody's above the law when you get every former president. You don't get to pick and choose. This ain't a la carte. It ain't the old country buffet where you get to pick and choose who you want to go after and say it's nobody above the law. Let's find something to prosecute all of them, including Trump, for some war crimes as president. So that's my take. Conspiracy brother, anything else you want to add before we head to the next topic?
Now, I'll let what you just said end because I agree with it. I think in general, that is what they do and how they try to operate. You saw that as we talked earlier about the debate. And so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. And the Hunter Biden laptop, that all turned out to be a wash. And they used that to interfere with the election. So once again, a lot of nastiness under the hood. If we really look into what Hunter Biden's connected to, so hopefully he'll get his and the Biden crime family. So once again, guys, Uncomfy Truths. We live stream every 2 weeks, usually on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, or Sundays. We are on Rumble as well as Odyssey and also YouTube during our doing our thing. All right. So next topic we got. Let's get into the great. I say not like one of the. I won't call the GOAT, but I say the great, and he kind of has more of my respect, on and off the court. Kyrie Irving. All right, and I want to bring up Kyrie Irving because obviously, I didn't mean to put it last laugh there, but Kyrie Irving, as you guys know, I think he's played about maybe 10, 13 seasons. I think he's probably up to maybe closer to 15 seasons in the NBA. Very outspoken guy. He played for the Brooklyn Nets for a minute. I think I'm kind of forgetting the other teams. He does jump around a bit. And he currently went to a few weeks ago, the NBA Finals. He was on the Dallas Mavericks playing against Boston Celtics. Celtics took the win, their first win of the championship in 16 years since 2008 with Doc Rivers and Ray Allen, and Anthony Pierce, and all those guys. So I give Boston their flowers. At the same time, even leading up through, I'd say, the last few months of the season, you start to see a lot of people turn around It's kind of like that old Kanye line, like first they love you, then they hate you, then they love you again. Um, and that's kind of been the thing with Kyrie. And I will admit, because I'm not, he does even before COVID, he does have a history of finding reasons to not play or kind of having pushback on a lot of different things. And even Stephen A. calls him out on that a lot, basically, where he's like, oh, well, I can't play because of this, or I got this going on. So COVID comes around. He's one of the few outspoken NBA players. He refuses to take the vax. So that's when his level of kind of hate goes to a whole nother level. And then I think it was like 2022, where once again, he did the whole just tweeting out a link to a documentary on Amazon, one that highlighted about Black Israelites and Black Jews. And he doesn't apologize when confronted about it. He doubles down. And then the ADL and the whole anti-Semite mob goes to town on him. And he's forced to kind of go do the little apology tour, meet with the ADL, go through like re-education camp, So he took a lot of slack for that. He lost endorsements. He had to kind of, get it. He got suspended or had to sit out on games because he didn't get the vax. So he went through a lot. That doesn't, obviously excuse him for everything as far as like some of his history of, finding ways to maybe get out of games or just having little petty stuff going on. But I think the COVID vax and then sort of the anti-Semitism controversy, those were some things that were the real tests that really showed people where he was and what he stood for. Regardless if you disagree with him, you still had to respect his stance. So I guess what I wanted to propose, Conspiracy Brother, at least just sort of acknowledge, is the fact that do we owe like Kyrie Irving and Kanye an apology? The fact that once again, even with Ye, obviously he says stuff that he'll be in the middle of one thought and then he'll make 2-3 other thoughts. And we already know Kanye just has a history of not articulating, giving the full nuance and context. I get that. But are there kernels of truth there? Is there a little bit of truth dog whistling that we can gather from that? Yeah, there were some kernels of truth with Ye, a lot more truth with Kyrie. He's more articulate. And I must say it, a lot of these pro-Palestine people on the left, before October 7th, Conspiracy Brother, I don't know if you fully agree on this, these people, the modern left, still back Joe Biden, every establishment move from Russiagate to everything Clinton did to COVID. They were on lockstep with the Biden uniparty Democrat regime. Now all of a sudden, since October 7th, they all of a sudden have, for the first time, a context of what anti-Semitism is. They have context of anti-Semitism. Before, if we talked about a George Soros or a Klaus Schwab who happen to be Jewish, they're doing this bad activity, they have a dark agenda, but they happen to be Jewish, we're not calling out their religion, we're calling out what they do to hide behind. All of a sudden, pro-Palestine, these Palestiners have a context, where before they crucified Kanye for talking about what, whether it's the Israel, whether it's, the Jew agenda as well. They demonized Kyrie for these stances. And my question is, do we owe, I wouldn't, say exactly yay, but do we owe Kyrie an apology for at least pointing out some truth in the fact of what he was talking about or what he was sharing, his thoughts, and why all of a sudden the left has context of anti-Semitism, where before October 7th they didn't, and they were locked up with everything the establishment was. So do we owe Kyrie an apology for that, for at least acknowledging what now everybody sees is so obvious? Conspiracy Brother, the floor is yours if you want to comment on that. If not, I can keep going. Okay, I think it's all right. Conspiracy brother, step away. So yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to propose. So till conspiracy brother gets back, it's the fact that I'll even put in like Kyrie Irving apology and see what comes up. All right, so yeah, we got Stephen A. issuing a public apology to Kyrie. Um, okay, we got Adam Silver, the very effeminate, um, NBA commissioner, who's just very kind of, I don't know, the guy's just very, you know, oh, here he is again. So now you got people trying to spin, oh, he still needs to give an apology, but you still got people coming to his defense. You got Rob Parker, you got Stephen A. Smith. So yeah, basically until Conspiracy Brother gets back, that's basically what I wanted to propose and just sort of get off my chest is the fact that he was pointing out some kernels of truth. Okay, and once again, I don't have Israel derangement syndrome. I can distinguish. I believe an innocent Israeli citizen life is just as precious as an innocent Palestinian life. Um, I don't believe that we can just pick and choose. Or when we say Israel, we're talking about, for me, when I criticize Israel, I'm talking about Netanyahu, the Israel regime, the IDF. I'm not about like, oh, every Israeli Jew, oh, they need to leave Palestine from the river to the sea. They need to abandon it. No, all right. But at the same time, I think Dave Smith does a great job of kind of more than anybody debating people on it. At the same time, do I think if one Hamas terrorist, you know, takes two hostages and they run inside of a building with 50 innocent people, should we level the entire building with all 50 people in there? No. That's the equivalent of a mass shooter going inside a school, and they're holding a room with 30 kids hostage, and they decide to just level the whole school because we had to get that one mass shooter, you know, but at the expense of killing like 30 more kids. So it's pretty obvious once again, as far as like obviously the Gaza genocide at this point is pretty much over. I don't know what could be left of Gaza, but at the same time, I'm not about to shy away from the hypocrisy, the sort of intersectionality of a lot of these pro-Palestine people who, before October 7th, they loved Joe Biden, they loved the Democrats. They were super pro-war with Ukraine. Yeah, go to war. They didn't care about how many Ukrainians were getting killed. They didn't care about how many Russians were getting killed. At some point, the Ukrainian army was so depleted that they were just rounding up innocent Ukrainian civilians, 30, 40, 50-year-old men, Ukrainian men, to fight and get killed as well. They're not going to comment on the other genocides going on right now or in the past in Africa. They're not going to go over the various Christian genocides, including the Armenian genocide going on right now. They were super pro-war. They believed the whole COVID, all the COVID regimes. They loved masks. They loved COVID mandates. They hated Trump. They hated anything anti-establishment. They were the enforcement arm for the establishment, Antifa, and all those guys. And then since October 7th, all of a sudden there's some context. But we talked about the dark agenda of Klaus Schwab, of George Soros, and guess what? Oh, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, how dare you? Oh, they had no context. They had no sort of nuance to it. We weren't calling like a whole group of Jews. We're not saying like all the Jews are evil, blah, blah, blah. We're saying there were these specific people in this WEF global agenda who are doing bad things, and they hide behind the veil of being Jewish and saying it's anti-Semitism if you criticize their actions. So we were saying all this and saying that was out there way before October 7th. And now, after October 7th, when people wake up, now they realize, oh, you were capping for that entire establishment, and now you find yourself on the wrong side because now you pick on the wrong country that has the tentacles and everything, and now you want to be all, oh, well, no, I didn't mean that. Oh, no, and now you're the one on the receiving end of the censorship. And you know what's this conspiracy brothers here still not back? I'm gonna do another one on the hypocrisy of the pro-Palestine movement. This is called Uncomfy Truths. Our tagline is because somebody has to say it. We're working on the new banner. We have a channel banner up pretty soon. But what I wanted to point out is the fact that let's say on Columbia campus, UCLA, let's say we had a group of pro-life activists who are against abortion, they're pro-life, and they set up an encampment in Hamilton Hall at Columbia at the public square in UCLA. Tell me how long would that encampment of pro-life Christians be up on that campus? Will there be the college president hee-hawing like, well, they're free speech, they're for free speech, it's there's a context to it, or would they be out of there faster than what? Antifa, police kick them out, and they're in jail waiting for their mock trial with the other J6ers in the gulags. So let's be real. That's an uncomfortable truth, a hypocrisy that the left must address. That there aren't all free speech liberals. Once again, if there was a pro-life group of Christians who were protesting on a college campus at a Columbia and a UCLA, and they did encampments, they bounded their hands together, and they started blocking people from going to class, all in the name of saving babies, do you think the college presidents and half of the media would be defending their right for free speech? I think we all know the answer. The answer would be no. And I say that as just one example. You could throw in if a group of anti-lockdown people, a group of anti-maskers, or any other time, but once again, I'll say the pro-life one for once, So that goes to show, you're not for free speech, but you'll defend and harbor the people for the speech you do like. But if some pro-lifers who have an encampment or they occupy Hamilton Hall, you're not about to, handhold and say, oh, we need to give them food and all that. No, you'll probably level the whole building. You'll bring the SWAT team in there. So that's kind of the hypocrisy. That and how y'all were super pro-establishment before October 7th. So anybody still pro-Palestine listening, I'm sorry. I'm still about saving as many Palestinians as possible. But at the same time, Hamas, who continues to hide behind their own citizens, whose Hamas leadership continues to steal the millions of dollars they get from aid from Iran or aid they got from Israel. They'll use it to build tunnels. They'll use it to buy real estate all over the country. I'm still against the genocide, but I'm not going to call out what the other side is doing just because it doesn't benefit your side or you guys hear some of the truth. There's three different types of people: people that pursue virtue, that pursue truth, and those that pursue power. When you pursue power, you don't care about the truth. You want anything that benefits your side, that gets you more stability, security, and more power. So that's why when you hear something that like, well, Hamas actually uses their people as human shield, or Hamas takes money that could have went toward building a part of their own two-state solution. They spend it on more weapons to attack Israel. Guess what? Israel is also a very tyrannical state. While there are people that are able to move, Jewish people that are able to move through Israel within Israel, the Palestinians who aren't allowed into Israel, they have to stay in the Gaza Strip. Guess what? They are subjected to a lot of human atrocities as well. So two things can be true at the same time. You got the IDF, you got the Netanyahu regime that has continued to done so many different atrocities against the Palestinians, blowing them up, keeping them in the small areas, taking their land. That is true. And guess what? Hamas harboring hostages, taking millions and applying it toward their warfare, and hiding among civilians. That's true as well. So this is called Uncomfy Truths, y'all. But you're not going to hear this anywhere else. There's maybe just a few of y'all listening, But you're not going to hear uncomfy truths where it just doesn't immediately benefit or make your side feel good. But somebody has to say it. There's hypocrisy and corruption on both sides. So that kind of got me on that tangent with Kyrie. But yeah, definitely just wanted to kind of mention that. Let me check in on Conservative Brother. See what's going on. Conspiracy Brother. And we'll probably move on to the next topic. I got to dip out, y'all, in about probably 20 minutes. But let's move on to the next topic. This is a little bit of an older one, but Conspiracy Brother did share this a little while back. And better late than never, but we need to go ahead and knock this out. This is from moneywise.com. And this is a little report or talk on interview from Larry Fink. He's the CEO of BlackRock. So this once again goes to the ongoing gaslighting of the elites, telling us the economy is doing great. You know, you'll own nothing to be happy. Them trying to pretend that they're for the people, where this is the same group of folks that helped bail out the banks. Obama helped bail out the banks, and the economy fell out in '08, and millions of people lost their homes and livelihoods. And then they turned around, and gaslighted, and said it was the people's fault when it was really the banks. They gave out these junk mortgages, giving out homes, just giving out homes left and right for people they knew they couldn't pay the bill. And once again, if you're not familiar with all that, if maybe a little younger, you don't remember how the 2007 housing crisis started, followed by the 2008 economic recession. Definitely watch The Big Short. Came out about 19 years ago. Big Short, I think, with Steve Carell, Brad Pitt, those guys. And you can kind of get an explanation of how the 2008 crisis works. So just keep in mind, if I read this article, a lot of these elites are the same ones who basically were behind the 2008 collapse, that let any and everybody and their mama just get a home. Don't worry about the payments. Didn't check pay stubs or see what their income was. And then when the bottom fell out, they sent Obama, the new puppet, to bail out the banks and left Americans on the street. So just keep that in mind on as far as like, it's kind of like the equivalent, it's kind of like the White Wall Street equivalent of all the rappers 10, 15 years ago bragging about guns, getting an advance check from a record label, buying a big house and car for mama, getting a bunch of ratchets in a mansion, spend money, do drugs, all that. Now 10, 15 years later, they're talking about, yeah, man, build back the block. Generational wealth. Let me go talk at this investment conference. Yeah, man, you need to buy back a house, man. And we need to do this and empower our people. So now they're now the fake generational wealth. Yeah, man, build back the block, where 10, 15 years ago, you did everything to make old girl shake her tail on the street. Now she just out here in the streets. Now she belongs to the streets now. You got old boy over there. Now he in jail, or he's addicted to drugs and everything else under the sun because he followed your music. And now they're 10, 15 years later, too little, too late, talking about, oh, man, build back the block, generational wealth, man. I got this new business. So once again, I'm not against, teaching those things, but when it's coming from people who were a part of the problem, exacerbated the problem for years, I take issue with that. All right, so Conspiracy Brother, if you're there, let me know if you can come back. So if not, I'm going to start this article. So once again, this is from MoneyWise. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink wants to solve the retirement crisis and has an important message for aspiring retirees. So this is the same guy that's now lecturing like 16 years later, almost 20 years later. The same guy who's kind of behind everybody lives in their home and houses. Now he wants to lecture on what you guys need to do to actually retire. All right, so anyways, comes from Lou Carlozo from MoneyWise. As sage billionaires go, BlackRock chairman and CEO Larry Fink belongs to the same rarefied air as Warren Buffett. And while he probably stopped worrying about his own nest egg a long time ago, Fink remains concerned about for those retirees who do or don't realize they should because of they should because for him it's personal. And as you can see by the tone of my voice, y'all, obviously I'm being a little cynical because I already gave you guys the context on why we should approach this sort of article with a grain of salt. So, in his 2024 annual letter to shareholders, Fink recalled going through his parents' finances after his mother passed away and his father started to decline. He surmised that they never made more than combined 150,000 a year in today's dollars. Yet was shocked that their retirement savings was an order of magnitude bigger than someone would expect for a couple with their income. And when we finished going over their own estate, uh, we learned my parents' investments, he wrote. The experience reminded him that BlackRock was started because we believed participating in those markets was going to be crucial for people who wanted to retire comfortably and financially secure. In a March interview with Bloomberg, Fink addressed the financial challenges that keep Americans from retiring with dignity, which resolve around the over-reliance on Social Security and the failure to save for investing. Building on the fantastic foundation of Social Security. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Social Security. Social Security is a fantastic foundation for retirement, Fink said. But that's all you have when you retire. You're going to be living below the poverty line. It's supplemental, but it's not meant to be the totality of what you have in retirement. While there's no consensus on how much money you need to retire, and everyone's situation is different, one yardstick is the 80% rule, where you plan to spend 80% of your pre-retirement income per year. Assuming you retire from a job with $100,000 annual salary, Social Security won't come close to cutting it. The current average monthly benefit for retirees is $1,907, or just under $23,000 a year. According to the Social Security Administration, the shortfall. More than $57,000, the maximum benefit for an individual retiring at age 70 in 2024 is $4,800 per month, and $58,476. Fink also noted in the Bloomberg interview that our current retirement system was based on statistics created 50 years ago, when the average life expectancy was below 70. Today's statistics show that a couple in good health, one of them is going to live over 90. Breakthroughs in treating dementia, heart disease, and obesity have extended life spans, he pointed out, while marveling at these miracles of medicine, as he calls them. Fink lamented. There is not a dialogue in America or most places about can we afford that longevity. So a lot of this is kind of fluff. I'm gonna, I'll break it down once I finish the article. But you guys can see this is kind of like one of the hundreds of just throwaway, like, oh, learn how to budget. You need to do this. First step, write a budget. It's just very superficial fluff. We'll get into it. Unless Congress excuse me, unless Congress takes action to shore up the system, Social Security will not be able to keep paying all promises promised benefits beyond 2034. Benefits are expected to be cut around 20% starting in 2035. Kiss your credit card goodbye, debit debt but goodbye. The millions of Americans are struggling to crawl out of debt in the face of record high interest. A personal loan offers lower interest rates, fixed payments, making it a smart choice to consolidate. Uh, is Is this Fink still talking? All right, so basically, okay, I see what they did there. So we're no longer interviewing Larry Fink on this sort of BS financial advice to the peasants. They sort of pivoted this into a sales pitch. All right, so unless Congress takes action to shore up the system, Social Security will not be able to keep paying all promised benefits beyond 2034. Benefits are expected to be cut around 20% starting in 2035. And I got a great meme for that too. If you want to see the bullet points of Biden, who they always trying to save Social Security and the pension for the retirement. There's a whole long list going back to the early 80s on Biden co-sponsoring, passing bills that cut Social Security multiple times, 80s through the 90s, and even continued before he got elected to office. So a lot of that myth about Biden's for the working seniors and Social Security and pensions and all, there's plenty of receipts of everything he did to cut Social Security for decades. Anyway, saving for retirement through saving for retirement, that's so tricky. Look what they do. They got sponsored, and you notice they use the same font to make you think you're still reading the article. So that's another uncomfortable truth is these sneaky ads they're trying to throw in as part of the articles. Notice the same font, almost the same font as Anyway, saving retirement through saving for investment. We really need to educate our citizens about the need for savings, said Fink, though not via vanilla bank accounts. Investing, he stressed, allows people to take advantage of capital markets and compounding while adding to your portfolio. Do a cursory examination of your outflow expenses and inflow, bringing in extra funds. The best cuts and side hustles are the most painless. Imagine selling off your expensive SUV and renting out a now empty garage or parking space on the same weekend, then putting your money to work in an IRA or 401k. Ain't a bad idea. At least I got something out this article. Let's see here. Screenshot that. Some of the simplest and best investment advice comes from another shareholder letter. This one from Buffett in 2013 to Berkshire Hathaway investors. On his wife's inheritance after his passing, he said, "My advice to the trustee cannot be more simple. Put 10% of the cash in short-term government bonds and 90% in a very low-cost S&P 500 index. In the end, how much you get to live on in your retirement determines how you get to live. My parents lived their final years with dignity and financial freedom," Fink wrote. "Most people don't have that chance, but they can." All right, so I'm sure Conspiracy Brother has some additional context with this article, kind of similar to what I mentioned about these kind of uniparty establishment, Wall Street collectives who kind of give this sort of surface level advice. And go see this firm over here that I make residual income for. So I'm not trying to bash capitalism or anything, but it's just funny how guys like these who were behind or complicit or went along with 2008 recession, who live a lifestyle that many of us would never experience. Not saying all of us would never experience, but many. Just kind of give out this very kind of, just penny pinch. Take on an extra job, sell the car, move into your parents with you. Find little ways to own a little bit less find ways to live with less. We're not going to cut back on our end. We're not going to add. We're not going to pay money toward a community mutual aid. I'm not advocating for handouts, but all you notice, everything is just learn to live with less. Don't try and make more money, get out of your situation, or try and become an entrepreneur or make more income. Learn to live with less and do all these little surface level, superficial things that get you just over broke or just keep the bills coming in, that just keep the bills paid at a minimum. And you're never able to retire. You're never able to experience any sort of significant livelihood beyond just working just to pay bills. So I hate to be a little dark in that aspect. Once again, there are a lot of ways that you can kind of be above your adversity, and not just settle for what you have, just learn to live with less, or just, depend on your Social Security or pension, and Biden will save you from that. So yes, there's a lot of hypocrisy in this article, but I think it's just very, because articles like these, especially on Yahoo Finance and all that, these pop up all the time. 3 ways to start on a budget and all that, and it's just very, it's very just kind of political theater or financial theater, if you will. So that's all I got, y'all. Comfy Truths. I'm sure Conspiracy Brother will be back, and this live stream might just go a little long because I'm gonna dip out of here. I know Conspiracy Brother's doing what he has to do. Whatever technical difficulties, but I have to head out. Conservative Brother Daily. It's great to see you guys. Once again, last plug. At least for me, I'm not sure when Conspiracy Brother will be back, but make sure you subscribe to Comfy Truths here at Rumble. We're also on Odyssey because we gotta, we can't depend on YouTube, which could censor us at any moment, or just delete our channel. So you can subscribe to us at any one of these channels. We appreciate you guys. Those that are more patient with the more long form, the long form, content that aren't about little sound bites, but they want to get true context. And that's what we're here for. That's what we chop it up with. So, guys, I appreciate you. We'll be back for another Comfy Truths in 2 weeks. We keep it twice a month. And yeah, that's all I got. Conservative Brother Daily. I'm out of here. And Conspiracy Brother will close out the show. See ya.